We're going to talk about working with raster images and attaching raster images to CAD files. So we've already had a discussion earlier in the semester about what is a raster image. And we know that there are two kinds of computer generated graphics. There are raster graphics and there are vector graphics. And raster graphics are made of pixels. Pixels are little squares of color, and pixels look great when you're zoomed out, but zooming in, you can see it's actually made of small, tiny little squares. Here's an emoji that looks great when it's tiny, right? But when you zoomed out, well, you would see that it's a bunch of little squares. It's not very round at all, is it, when you're zoomed out? And each of those squares has a color assignment that goes along with it. So these are raster graphics, and we talked about the disadvantages of raster graphics for the kind of drawings that we do. We need drawings that have high fidelity. It means when you zoom in and zoom out, they look perfect. And we don't want things to look pixelated, right? So instead of raster graphics, we've been working with vector graphics all this time while we've been doing CAD. And vector graphics are mathematical expressions and properties made visible on a screen, and they do not degrade. They look fantastic all the time. Well, just because we've been drawing things with vector graphics doesn't mean that we have no use for raster graphics. And in fact, we're going to be talking about when you might use them today. So I was trying to think of some examples that I've used raster graphics mixed in with vector graphics. For example, here's a project. It was a classroom on campus, and the drawing of the classroom is nice and all, but when we look at the fact I was able to illustrate some of the points I was trying to make by including pictures of the actual classroom, comparing it to other classrooms, well, now I've got something on the screen that's a photograph I took, right? And now I don't have this flat drawing that's maybe hard to understand if we're not a person who's used to looking at technical drawings. We can see what's going on because there are some pictures attached to it. So that was one instance, We did the classroom for MS9, and that was a great drawing, right? Nice little drawing. It's accurate. It's all vector-based. Well, for someone that's never seen the MS9 CAD lab or the MS10 CAD lab, wouldn't it be nice if we had some images to go along with it? So over here, right, I have the MS building, and then we've got the inside of the lab with our nice dual screen monitors and our laser projector. And then we have a student working on one of her projects. So adding pictures often adds a lot of punch to the drawing, and that might be a good thing. Here I'm working on a project. It's a 76 acre farm, and it's for the sales people who want to sell this thing. So they want to sell this farm. It's 76 acres, so we've drawn it out, and we've shown how we've got grapevines, and we've got almond trees, and we've got buildings and pumps. Well, it'd be nice if there were some pictures of the actual stuff, right? So not just the technical drawings. So in addition to all the vector graphics I created, we took some snapshots, and now we got a picture of the house, we got a picture of the filtration system and the well, and we have a picture of the orchard, right? So raster graphics definitely have their place and are useful. We take a look here. I've got a construction detail, and drawing it out flat like this might be a little bit hard for some people to understand, especially if they're not in the building trades. So if I had a snapshot or a little 3D picture of it, like what was created here, well, now that really clarifies things, doesn't it? So I might draw this part out in CAD on the left, but I might include something like this, a little snapshot of a 3D image as raster graphics to go along with my vector graphics drawing. I've worked on projects where we're working with trusses or working with energy calculations, and a lot of times those calculations are longhand. They've been written out, they've been scribbled out, so they need to actually be part of the package of drawings, believe it or not. And it is acceptable to take those engineering calculations and scan them and include the scan as part of your drawing packet along with your vector drawings, right? Someone at Plan Check just wants to make sure that somebody else did all the math and that this truss is not going to fail. Maybe I have a construction company and it's Precision Builders. And on my drawings for my construction company, well, I would like to have our logo appear in the bottom right corner. So we can do that. So now there it is, brought in through the magic of Hollywood, right? And now all of my drawings for the projects that my company does will have our logo attached to them. You can bet if I am the architect that's approving these modifications to the building, that I want to show off who I am. So in the title block, I'm of course going to include my company logo. Right? Doesn't it look much nicer with Elusive Design and Development's logo on my title block? Right now, I have ownership of this project. Maybe you're just a fan of the Flash, or Batman, or Superman, or whoever, you know, and they got a nice simple logo, and you want to include that on your drawing work, or on something you're going to make in AutoCAD and then print out. Well, you can. You don't have to recreate it from scratch. You can go find the image on the internet. You can go scan something and stick the scan in AutoCAD. You can take a picture of something and include that in AutoCAD if it's something that you like, right? Yankees fan? Same deal, right? We can have this in the corner of everything we make in AutoCAD, if that floats your boat. And do you recall this picture here, right? So our location map doesn't have to be something that we drew in CAD. This could be something that we got out of Google Earth, and we take a snapshot of it, or we take a screenshot of it, save it as a raster image, and then it becomes part of the drawing, and then we know where the site is in relation to the terrain and the road work around it. And then finally, what about this? You know, we've got a multi-view engineering graphics style drawing here on the left side. A lot of people looking at that without the technical training required might be very lost and not exactly sure what this thing is supposed to look like because the three different views represent a single object from different perspectives. Well, what if I just include a little raster image of the object up here in the corner, right? And then it's crystal clear what we're talking about. So for the technical person who's going to manufacture the part, they have their kind of drawing that they want. And then for the guy who's looking at a catalog, well, he's got the kind of image that works best for him, since he doesn't maybe have the technical training to read this kind of a drawing. So there are lots of reasons why we would have raster images in a CAD drawing. And one of them is going to be something One of the uses also is something related to a little project we're going to do. We're going to get to do some laser cutting using a CAD design that you come up with on your own. So in my desire to create a little exercise for you to work on as we are trying to learn about raster images, let's click on 7C, raster image drawing. And we'll use this as our exercise on how to work with raster images. You and I will do it together, and then we'll be done, and we can go on to our fun project, which is some individual design, creative design, where you get to do some laser production too. So the basis for the assignment is over in your course pack. Go grab that course pack and look for the assignment. On page 1514, assignment raster image drawing. What I'd like you to do is go in and set the units to the decimal 3 places. Go set your limits to 11 by 17. Set your grid and snap as indicated. Set up the layers that we're asking for. Set up a text style. And then draw a border for me. Okay, so you do that while I do that. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about how do we insert these images. All right, so let's start with a brand new clean fresh drawing. And our first instruction was to go in and go to units and keep it in decimal units, but switch the precision to 3 places to the right of the 0. Our second direction was to go to the limits. Keep the bottom left limit 0, 0, but make the top left limit Top right limit is 17 by 11. Our next direction was to go in and set your grid to 0.25 and set your snap to 0.125. We might actually use snap mode on this assignment to line things up. We'll turn off adaptive grid. We'll set our major lines to every inch, every 4 spaces. And then we have some layers to make. So, layer property manager. 3 layers, border, red, 0.7 millimeter, text, magenta, default, images, yellow, default. And line type is continuous on all of them. Next step is to make a text style. New style. Dutch 801. And then we'll go searching for the font. Dutch 801 X BDBT. There it is. And we can even go in there and make it a little bit more specific as far as which Dutch 801 we're using. All right. So we're ready to go. We can start drawing now. Working from the border layer. We're going to start in the bottom left corner at 0, 0. And we're going to go to 16. 16 and a half in the X, 10 and a quarter in the Y. And this will be the frame that goes around our image. I'll turn on my line weight so I can see it. Now we're going to go get some raster images. So the place you're going to get them is from the assignment. Raster image drawing. I've included 8 different images. You need 5. So if you want to download 5 of them, download as many as you want of them, download all of them. And then you can be selective and picky later on when you decide which ones you want to use. One, 2, 7, 8, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and you can be saving these into your exercise folder. Okay, so when we have these raster images downloaded, the next step is to get them into AutoCAD. So here we are back in AutoCAD. We'll turn our layer onto the image layer, and then we're going to use the magic word. The magic word is attach. Attach is the command. Attach is actually used for several things in AutoCAD, but for what we're doing today, it's perfect. It's going to allow us to go out and find some raster images and put them in our CAD file. So I'm going to go and find where I save those raster images. And here they are. And I'm going to go to the first one, raster image 1, student. So find your image, say open, and then you've got several options on the screen here to choose from. Here's the name of the picture. The path should be set to relative. Scale on screen is turned on. Insertion on screen is turned on. Rotation is turned off. We'll just hit OK. And here's what you'll see. You'll see a little box attached to your cursor. Okay, and then if you pick a point and start dragging, you'll see that the image is now visible in AutoCAD. So I'm going to do that with all these images. I'm going to get image 2 and say OK and click and drag, and image 3, and click and drag, and so on and so on. Alright, so there's all the images they came in. Some of them came in pretty small, one of them came in ginormous. Don't let that mess you up or worry you too much. A raster image will have grips on the corners, and the grips allow you to resize. So you can grab the corner grip and pull it down and resize it to the size you're looking for. You can take the smaller ones and grab their grips and increase them in size. Alright, so now we need 5 images for the assignment. I would say go in and pick your best 5 images. Alright, so let's see. I don't like this side of the building as much as that. I'll get rid of that one. I don't like this classroom as much as this one. I'll get rid of that one. And what else am I going to get rid of? Let's see. I like the laser, the 3D printer. It looks a little sloppy with all those boxes on the side. I'll get rid of that one. Okay, so what we're looking for when we're done here is we're looking for 5 images. And the basic layout of the assignment is 2 big images on the top, 3 smaller images down on the bottom, everything all lined up horizontally, and everything at a certain size. So how can you get these things to the size you want? Because the top ones are supposed to be 4 inches tall, and the lower ones 3 inches tall. Well, if you turned on your grid in your snap mode, you can grab and just use the grips, right? Here's 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, so I can grab and I can go down, and there's 4 inches, right? Because we can see the 4 sets of lines there at every inch. I'll do the same thing here. We'll just take the coward's way out, and we'll use snap mode and grid, which, you know, for something like this works just fine. These guys are supposed to be 3 inches tall. This is just under 2. I can tell by the grid. So I'll grab it and I'll pull it, and I'll make sure that it's 3. And the same thing down here. We'll move it down to a nice solid line, dark line, and pull it up, and there's 3. And I'll do the same thing down here. Line it up at the bottom, and then pull it up from the other grip until it's at 3. Alright, so 2 big images, 3 small images, and then your job is to make it look pretty. Space things out, don't have them too close together, don't have them too far apart, we're sticking out past the edges. Okay, we're not going to get too crazy about it, but you find something that looks good to you, and of course having the grid and the snap-on will probably make that fairly easy. Alright, and then I'll do this, I'll give it up a little bit, quick little move up, quick little move down. Alright, so that's all it takes to get an image into AutoCAD. It's really simple. You attach the image. Okay, now while it looks like the picture is in AutoCAD, I've got to tell you that it's not. It's really not. And this is going to sound freaky, but the image is not in AutoCAD. When you attach the image, what you did is you created a little window. That's the yellow frame. And that little window is looking on your computer to the place where the image is stored. And it sees it, and then it's sending an image back to here. You can think of these little screens, these little squares, as television screens, right? It's a television screen, and you're seeing what's being recorded over the recording studio. That's wherever the file is saved, right? So there's an advantage to doing this, and it's this. CAD files are supposed to be small. If we started attaching images to CAD files, they would start ballooning in size very quickly, because raster data, especially for these megapixel pictures we take on our cameras now, raster data is bloated and enormous compared to vector data. So to keep the CAD file small, AutoCAD doesn't actually stick the picture in the drawing. It just sticks a viewport or a window or a TV screen that lets you see the picture. Now, that's great because it keeps the CAD file small, but there is a small disadvantage. And here's what it is. I just went online. I found an image of the Batman logo. I'm going to go over to AutoCAD, and I'm going to attach that image. Okay, I'll keep the settings just the way they are. I'll say OK, and I'll grab it and drag it, and there it is. It's in my CAD file. And I'm going to go save this. I'll save it on my desktop, and I'll call it Batman. Okay, so again, remember, I did not stick the picture in the CAD file. The picture is quite large. It's got a lot of megabytes as far as the size goes. It's a high weight or heavy weight file. I want to keep the CAD file lightweight, so you're not seeing the picture in the CAD file. You're seeing a view screen that displays the picture. Okay, so I'm going to close this now, and now I'm going to go find my Batman picture. Here he is. So now imagine it was here, and every time AutoCAD opens up, it's going to go looking to find that picture. Okay, and it looked on the desktop and it found it, so it's displaying it, and all is good. But imagine what would happen if at some point we got rid of the picture. Here's what I mean. I'm going to take Batman, I'm going to throw him in the trash. Okay, so Batman is no longer on the desktop. I'm going to go back to AutoCAD, and I'm going to say, hey, open up Batman. And when I do that, it's going to hit the fan. Okay, so what's going on? Well, AutoCAD's telling you, hey, I can't find the thing that you attached before. So what you'd have to do at this point is you'd have to have some more CAD knowledge about how to go in and how to handle these external references. So these aren't things that we teach in this level of the class. We teach these in the intermediate and the advanced CAD classes, the 20A and the 20B class. So if you work with XREFs frequently and you want answers on how to fix things like this, we'll have to work together again in the future sometime. Look at what AutoCAD is displaying. It's displaying the view screen or the TV screen, right? That's the size of the box I made. And it's telling me I'm looking for a file called Batman, and it's a JPEG, but I couldn't find it. So this is all you're going to get. You're going to get a little box on the screen with some text inside. Now this will happen if you delete the picture files or if you move them, right? So the best thing you can do is if you're working with raster images and you're working with vector files in AutoCAD and you want them to stay together, is put them in the same folder with each other. Put them in the same folder with each other so that every time the file opens up, the CAD file opens up, it can easily find the pictures that it wants. Putting them in separate files, you got to be careful, because if you move them again out of that separate file, if you move the raster images, AutoCAD's going to flip out and say, hey, I don't know where these things are. You moved them on me. Okay, so if you're seeing boxes with text, that's why. That's what's happening. It's looking for images it can't find anymore. I'm going to go back to my recycle bin there. And I'm going to find Batman. And I'm going to restore him. Okay, now that didn't help AutoCAD out because when I opened the file, I couldn't find it. But I'm going to close it without saving my changes. And then I'm going to go back and open it again. And now, because the picture is on the desktop and that's where AutoCAD was looking for it, it's able to find it and display it again. Okay, so this is probably the trickiest thing about raster images, remembering that they are big, they are heavy, and CAD files are light. We're trying to keep them light so we don't actually stick the image in the CAD file. Now that's not true in PowerPoint, is it? If you stick an image in PowerPoint, well, that image stays in PowerPoint. It's part of the PowerPoint. It adds all of the data from the picture to your PowerPoint file, which can make it very big and heavy. Same thing with Microsoft Word. If you've ever inserted pictures into Word, you're actually inserting them into the Word document. And Word doesn't care if you move the pictures later on or delete them, but for AutoCAD, it does care because the image is not really inserted. Okay, let's take a look back at our drawing that we're working on here as an exercise. We've got 4-inch tall images in the top, 3-inch tall images in the bottom. And our last step is to put a little tag underneath each one telling me what this thing is. So we're going to use some Dutch 801 text. We're going to have a top center justify and 0.2225 tall centered under each image. Okay, so what does that mean? It means let's go get our annotation. Make sure we're on Dutch 801. We're going to make some single line text, justified top center. Center point will be here. The height, 0.225. Angle 0. And then what do we have in the picture? We have a student working. Right, and you can move it down a little bit too so it's not touching the image. We move it down an eighth, huh? Thank you, Snap. We'll make sure we're also on the right layer. We're on the text layer. Okay, we'll take the lazy man's way of doing this. Since we have one good piece of text, we will copy it everywhere we need it. And then you can change your text by double clicking on it. This is the MS-10 CAD Lab. This is the Math Science building. This is our laser cutting and engraving system. And there's our architecture and technical drawing lab, MS-12. Okay, so what we did with this exercise is we brought in some raster images using the attach command. We made a nice little frame around them. We added some text using a cool font. And our last little bit of work is take this and down in the corner, turn that into your name so I know who you are. Alright, so that is the exercise. If you take a look in the course pack, it details all the steps we just took. And of course, you'll be plotting things out in a way that I can collect them either in our face-to-face class or as a PDF in our online class.